Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Portland. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Matt Sperling. It is our pleasure to bring you semi-final coverage here. James Stevenson comes from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. He's playing red-green Pummeler. Cool deck that he's built here, leveraging Samut in her various forms. Again, Shahar Shenhar. Yes, that Shahar Shenhar who has really seemed to have found the fire again here. He wasn't even qualified for one of the Pro Tours. He had a silver invite coming in. He got 9th at a GP, then ran it up at the Pro Tour, and now he finds himself in the semifinals here. No problem piling up those invites.
That's how it goes sometimes. You lose interest or lose that fire for a little bit, then all of a sudden he's come back fresh, focused, and having a lot of success.
You know what it was, too? I heard him say this. He went to the Hall of Fame ceremony for both Josh Utter-Layton and also for Martin Yuza, and he said, he listened to the speeches and kind of saw how Magic fit into their life from a big picture, and it really reminded him of why he, was so into this. And, boy, looks like when you get Shahar motivated, things get ugly for the opponents here. James Stevenson had a long tusk hub, but a Harness Lightning took care of that. No turn 3 play from Shahar. Kind of weird.
Yeah, neither player utilizing their 3 mana on their third turn. That's certainly unusual. Sometimes you'll see the red-green Pummeler wait until the 4th mana in order to deploy a threat like Electrostatic Pummeler because of the 1 mana protection spell in Blossoming Defense. Mm-hmm. That could be the case here, okay. Or he could just have an unorthodox draw.
Well, Shahar says, I'll do something with my 4 mana at least. Bristling Hydra hits the battlefield. He's got 5 energy in the reserve there as well. So that thing's protected. And this is, of course, one way that you can defeat this Pummeler deck is just to take the fight to it. It needs to assemble sort of a precarious mix of creature plus energy plus pump spells to get the job done. And if you're just pounding on it, well, there it is, Electrostatic Pummeler.
So certainly representing the possibility of a Blossoming Defense. We don't know if he actually has one. I don't think he does. So, doing nothing on turn 3, some of James's best draws do that, and some of his worst draws might do that. It's unclear which one this is or how Shahar's cards will match up, but Shahar will have to be careful here. It's always really nerve-wracking to be facing an Electrostatic Pummeler with mana up.
So scary.
Those 3 cards could easily be enough to end the game if Shahar's not careful. Well, the good news for Shahar is that Glorybringer is his turn 5 play, and having just tapped out, certainly is going to choose to exert it. He actually chooses to play it safe by not attacking with the Bristling Hydra, so he's got exert and a blocker. So you can see the amount of fear created by a Pummeler. But all that fear doesn't get you anywhere if the Pummeler's in the graveyard, and now, thanks to the Glorybringer, it is.
Yeah, so we see, of course, that means no Blossoming Defense, and all of a sudden, James Stevenson is facing down Glorybringer and Bristling Hydra and has no board whatsoever.
Nothing relevant in hand, no board. He's forced to just...
This is the downside, right?
Yeah. Now, normally there's not a whole lot nothing weird could happen. Now, James does have the flash version of a 5-mana Samut in his deck, so even this board state somehow is still scary. I mean, we know he doesn't have it in his hand, but it's just funny to me that how threatening this deck is from seemingly out of nowhere. James can go nuts. Instead, he's just drawing a few too many lands, pump spells that he'd never found a window to use. That's sometimes how it goes with a pump combo deck. So it's the Planeswalker version of Samut.
That's right. Of course, Shahar has to read it because that card has not seen a lot of play. It's Samut the Tested. So you can +1. Yeah, there you go. You can see it right on your screen there.
So that was -2.
To the dome?
Shock you? Okay.
Yep, just sending a message, James Stevenson. Right, getting smacked around by some creatures, but he's not going down without a fight. He's just going to go upstairs with Samut here. I would assume that this is James's last stand here in game number 1. But I like the fight.
He knows that it's going to get attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he can either let it die at 5 loyalty, or he can get 2 damage in. He chose to shock his opponent. I can't fault him for that. I mean, we're laughing because he's just so far behind that it's sort of irrelevant. At only 8 life, one blocker is just not enough.
No, especially when it's a Pummeler, a pretty bad blocker all told. And Shahar even has the Abrade destroy target artifact here.
Yeah, that should send us into game 2.
Yeah, it absolutely should. James is facing down much more than lethal, and Shahar's going to be pretty happy to get a clean win here in game 1 with really no fight from James. In fact, the 2 damage from Samut, the only damage that Shahar took this game.
Yeah, there was one turn where Shahar's kind of, his heart skipped a beat when the mana was up and the Pummeler had just gotten cast. As soon as that Glorybringer Exert trigger resolved, it was a sigh of relief, and the outcome was clear.
Shahar's going to generate some energy with Confiscation Coup here.
Just showing off a little bit. No, just kidding.
I guess he's just piling on, but at any rate, perfectly lethal attack here from Shahar Shenhar, and he takes game number 1 from James Stevenson, never really able to get his feet under him.
Yeah, and you see Shahar now has access to James' deck list. That's a feature that typically plays to the advantage of the opponent of the weird pump spell, kind of a little bit rogue strategy. There's a flash creature you might not otherwise know about. Well, Shahar knows about every single card that James has access to. Reduces the power level of his deck a little bit, no question.
Also, I always find these matchups interesting because, I look at a professional player like Shahar who, he's an expert, right, like most high-level professional Magic players in mitigating and judging risk, right? He's going to be able to look at a situation and know when it's correct to just go for it and not worry about immediately dying to, Electrostatic Pummeler versus the times when it's correct for him to sit back and play more conservatively, where I have to think that this Pummeler deck gets some amount of edge from people just being scared, right? They're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to attack you because I don't want to die to this Pummeler, when they should just say, if you got these 2 spells, I'm dead, but I'm going to attack you anyway.
Yeah, a classic example is someone who doesn't deploy cards to the board just because they feel like they need to hold all the removal back, and then James can take his turn and play 2 more threats, and all of a sudden, things can kind of spiral where you lose sight of what your game plan was and kind of how best to keep up. You're right. Shahar has the knowledge and experience to kind of figure out what order to play his cards in to reduce the total risk against a deck like Electrostatic Pummeler. The Pummeler deck, I mentioned again that I saw this deck win its win-in against Corey Burkhart playing blue-white cycling. I saw a game where James did almost nothing for the first 5 turns of the game, but end step, it was Samut, Voice of Dissent, untap, played a couple creatures, got haste. The creatures, there was a Settle the Wreckage that stopped 1 attack, but just I was really impressed with how he played a longer game, and some of these cards that he's added, like Samut, allowed him to do that. It's not all just 2 and 3 mana threats and pump spells. There's some staying power to this version. And the sideboard brings even additional staying power. 2 Glorybringer, 2 Chandra, Torch of Defiance. So I think he's built his deck in a way where he can play a more mid-range strategy, and it'll be interesting to see which way his deck comes out here in Game 2.
It's a heck of a hat going on the other match there. You guys obviously can't see us on camera, but Matt's actually wearing one of those hats right now.
Absolutely.
You're wearing it better than him, I got to say. It's striking. Shahar's really going over the deck list here, trying to figure out what are the things that I need to fight. Always interesting to see how players manage this situation, because Shahar still needs to put out his main game plan as well. He needs to be able to keep pressure on his opponent. He doesn't want to be too reactive, but if he just lets his opponent go off, well, then he could just find himself dead.
It's got to be one of the hardest decks to sideboard against.
Has to be.
Artifact removal seems kind of good because the Pummeler, that one of their combo pieces is an artifact, but who really knows? It could be dead. You've got cards like Negate. Well, those can be good theoretically against a pump spell, but fundamentally you're still playing against a creature deck. So, and Samut can be negated as well. Is that a card I want? It's unclear. Earlier, Paul Rito said he likely isn't interested in an effect like Negate. It might be a trap. Having said that, the number of different types of cards that could be effective against James's deck is large, and he preys upon the opponent oftentimes not having the right answer. not having having a targeted removal when he's got blossoming defense, or having an artifact removal when he's just beating down with voltaic brawlers, and even using Samut the Tested to give them double strike. I mean, I saw that one game.
Wow. Yeah, that's a beating.
So it's hard. So it's hard to come in with an appetite for the unnatural, for example, and hope that that's going to be effective. So we'll see. We'll see what Shahar lands on. Certainly, there's versatile cards like a Braid that are just automatic inclusions, and he'll certainly show up with those.
Sounds like on our side table it was Brandon Go winning game number 1. He's playing against Michael Bernat over there. They are on the mono-red mirror match. And Brandon, well, he's certainly played faster. We watched him play a little earlier, and boy, that guy plays really quickly. I love it.
Yeah, so the winner of this match will face a Ramunap red deck in the finals, whether it's Brandon Go or his opponent.
All right, well, let's see if James, on the play here, can put together the combo that he needs to pile in for a ton of damage. He certainly kept, though. And we're underway. All right, so Attune with Ether. Pretty ubiquitous here in Standard, and even this deck runs it. He's going to go dig up a mountain.
Yeah, Attune with Ether, obviously a great start for all these energy decks, and James Stevenson. I mean, when you play that Pummeler, if you can have accumulated enough mana over the course of the game, sometimes sometimes a Harness Lightning isn't even enough to take it down. I mean, there's some interesting things you can do with energy. Long Tusk Cub, not the most interesting thing, but certainly one of the more effective.
Ooh, lucky Shahar just peeled in a Braid off the top of the library.
Yeah, get used
That'll
to that.
That'll do nicely.
If you want to watch Shahar play Magic, you got to get used to him drawing the right card at exactly the right time.
Perfect timing.
He's very good at that.
Shahar. And let's see. Well, there's an immediate replacement Long Tusk Cub, and Shahar does not have an answer to that one. So he's going to have to
he's
go attuning and then maybe play a Servant of the Conduit.
It's a really good draw from James. Attune, Cub, redundant copy of Cub.
Yes.
On the play, doing exactly what he needs to do to get ahead and stay ahead.
He also has Electrostatic Pummeler in his hand, but declined to play it, making you think, well, he's probably got that Blossoming Defense, right?
Yeah, or
is Cub just better at this stage?
Yeah, the Cub is a really attractive early game play. It can get so large that, for example, Chandra and Glorybringer can't take it down.
Right.
And the way to get it that large is to get it through in these early turns.
Yeah, he also can just play the Pummeler and use that energy if he'd like on the Cub. In the meantime, he has a pretty clean attack here. And are we going to see James be aggressive with his energy, or are we going to see him not? Yeah, it looks like he wants to make a counter and can get that energy back, of course.
So it's going to be a 3-3 Cub. So it looks like right now it looks like 4-4, but we know that it's very likely that James plays something. Wow.
What did he not play here?
He's holding something up. Interesting. So I'm surprised that we didn't see Electrostatic Pummeler, but James has a different plan.
Shahar's going to take the pretty safe route here. Just play a Bristling Hydra. He already had 4 energy. Is James just wanting to cycle? Is that what's happening here?
Not sure.
Yeah. Wants something better than Pummeler. You know, he's been playing this deck successfully all weekend. I'm going to default to him.
I'm offended. No, that's fine. I get it.
Not over you.
Interestingly, Samut, I don't know which of the Samuts that is. It looks like the Planeswalker, the Tested.
The Tested, yeah.
Certainly an exciting card on this board.
Yeah.
A double striking Long Tusk Cub will generate that 2 energy twice in an attack step if unblocked.
That's cool.
And if blocked, well, it then has the ability to take out the Hydra, but because there's only 2 energy sitting over there. So had Electrostatic Pummeler got cast last turn, this turn becomes, the whole game changes, but I'm interested to see now whether this is the Electrostatic Pummeler turn or how James decides to navigate this.
It is the electrostatic pummeler here for James Stevenson. That should put him up to 5 energy. Which means he could offer the trade here with the Hydra.
Yeah, but he'd have to give up his... He'd be trading off my energy for your energy as well. He surveys the board and decides not to do that. Electrostatic Pummeler makes James's energy pretty valuable.
What do you think about a braid off the top of the library here for Shenhar?
Just about perfect.
All right. Par for the course. Up to 9 energy now. Shahar's playing the 3-color straight Temur energy build. He is the last of that ilk standing here in Portland. Sure, James is using energy as well, but a much different take on the deck.
Yeah, James has been the last couple turns. James has basically been playing around Glorybringer. He's making sure to leave up red 1 with the Harness Lightning in his hand. He just doesn't. He knows how game 1 went. He knows how these games tend to go when Glorybringer swings. His draw is not that good. He just doesn't want that to happen. So he's been holding up that Harness Lightning. It might have cost him, given that Shahar doesn't have a Glorybringer and he delayed his own development. But at the same time, I think, like I said earlier, James has shown a willingness and ability to play a longer game. He knows how to do it. He knows that his cards, Pummeler can kill you out of nowhere no matter what turn of the game it is. So this looks to be one of those games now.
Haship Oasis was the draw step there for Stevenson, meaning that he does have enough mana now to cast Samut the Tested and keep up that removal spell Harness Lightning. And here we go. Are we going to see some fireworks here with this Long Tusk Cub?
He's going to read it again every game. Maybe if we go to game 3, he might read it a third time.
Still there. So he plussed Samut and targeted the Cub from what I saw. Now what? Just slamming with it? All right. Get in there.
Yeah, and the Abrade in Shahar's hand is not, importantly, not a Harness Lightning, right? It can only deal 3 damage. It's not going to take down the Cub, so Shahar has to find a different way to manage this. Perhaps it's a chump block.
Shahar's at 17 life, facing a 3/3 double striker, 5 energy for James.
Yeah, this game got real interesting pretty fast. So the Hashep Oasis that's part of the land row, that's what they call a spell land that gives trample. So you're looking at, if you're Shahar, a troublesome attack if you can't find a way to get the Samut off the board.
So Abrade is going to take care of the Pummeler, but James wasn't attacking with that yet anyway, and it gave him the energy, so he'll live with it. Some powerful stuff in hand here for Shenhar, though. He's got a Commit to Memory and a Chandra.
Having cleared the blocker, you would think that the Bristling Hydra now, the path is clear for it to take out Samut, and it's hard to imagine it playing a more effective role than that. So I suspect we'll see that, but a number of options for Shahar in terms of what to do next. You got Commit to Memory if you really want to be defensive and kind of make sure nothing goes super wrong. You've got Chandra if you want to, add to your board presence. So, and Whirler Virtuoso could make a lot of chump blockers here, but Hashep Oasis kind of can negate some chump blockers. So interesting. Not clear to me which is the best play.
Yeah, he does have Chandra and Whirler Virtuoso at his disposal here if he'd like as well. Pretty explosive turn if he went for that. In the meantime, we can see that the Bristling Hydra is the one who's attacking Samut. And unfortunately for James, Samut down. So Shahar's going to be quite happy with that result. Let's see if he leaves blue mana up. He did. Wouldn't be surprised to just see him plus for mana and play the Virtuoso. That's what he's going to do. Lots of energy. Way ahead on board. This one could be slipping away from James once again.
Yeah, a really effective turn from Shahar.
Harness Lightning is going to attempt to kill Whirler Virtuoso, but Shahar gets to cash in some amount of energy for Thopters if he'd like. He still has the Bristling Hydra as well. Make a couple of them?
Yeah, I went for 2.
Okay.
And if Shahar was at 10 life, this becomes interesting. I don't think it's going to be very hard to get to 17.
Yeah.
If with just that cub.
Yeah, without a Pummeler. Pummeler, it gets trivially easy to get up into the teens and the 20s and even higher. But
with a Pummeler on the board, I stopped saying, hey, I don't think, there's nothing's impossible with that thing out there. But Long Tusk Cub doesn't quite work that way. You can see here that without a Hotship Oasis activation, it's not even able to get through a Thopter.
Yeah, it runs over a Thopter, but still, James has tapped his only Long Tusk Cub here, and Shahar Shenhar looks like he is poised for victory. He's got James down to 16, but he is significantly ahead on board now. Untapping with Chandra, Torch of Defiance. He still has that Hydra going.
Yeah, Shahar needs to not cast Memory this game.
Yes.
That's his biggest key to victory from this point. The biggest key, do not cast Memory, even if he has 6 mana next turn.
Just let it go.
It's not worth it.
Oh, man. Shahar has Long Tusk Cub and Commit to Memory in hand. That's all he's got. He's counting out mana here.
So it's going to be going up. Will that be 2 damage to the face? Probably. Yeah, Shahar just chipping away. Take up the Planeswalker. Ho-hum.
Shahar probably playing around Samut Voice of Dissent to a degree here. Though he does have that base fairly well covered with Commit. And, of course, James doesn't have it. Blossoming Defense was a draw step there. But James just doesn't have any way to actually power this Long Tusk Cub through. He needs something like larger than life, and he needs something to give it double strike or similar. And it just feels like it's too far away from James at this point.
Yeah, James is now in a position where he can't even attack. This is a lethal Commit to Memory, so James will need to counter it, but then what does he have going after that? Not a whole lot. So Shahar in a commanding position. Again, do not cast the Memory, and you'll be fine. Shahar knows this. He's not going to cast it. He's just going to figure out, okay, what's the best way to get my opponent from 9 to 0 before an Electrostatic Pummeler or something like that could show up and change the math.
I'll tell you what, man, if I was just to snapshot this game, I walk into the living room, I got the stream up, I'd be like, wow, this is over. Shahar way ahead and just putting the nails in the coffin here on James Stevenson.
Yeah, you'd be right. James now forced into a somewhat awkward block. It's going to have to be Bristling Hydra. He's going to lose his cub here and be down to 0 blockers, 0 attackers, and really no hope of changing that anytime soon.
Yeah, he's definitely drawing larger than life, just in the interest of justice. And we would call this one good.
Yeah, I'm not sure he gets a draw step. Cub pump. That's 7.
4.
Chandra's 2.
Oh.
I don't think there's another draw step in this game.
That's 9. I just ran the numbers. Down to 2 life. And all you got to do is activate Chandra and say, I don't think I'm going to cast that. And that's going to do it. James Stevenson, a great run for you. Really impressive stuff to take this cool, different take on what's already kind of a fringe deck. But it will end here in the semifinals because Shahar Shenhar just put himself into the finals. You know, he had such a close one at the last GP that he played in, ultimately losing the slot to Anton Janssen by, it was in the thousands in the opponent match win percentage.
Is that
bracket.
right?
Yes, I had the sheet in front of me, and it was over, and he got 9th in that. And Shahar was, you know, he understands. He's been playing for a long time, but he was understandably a little disappointed by it. And then he just went to the Pro Tour and smashed anyway, so it didn't matter. But
he's on some kind of run, huh?
Now I can tell you by way of update, in our other match, we've got Michael Bernat. He's playing against Brandon Go. They're going to game 3. That's the mono red mirror. And what we're going to do is we're going to move him over. We get to watch game 3 here live on the stream, but it's just going to take a minute for that to happen. So in between, your favorite, buddy, Fact or Fiction. Let's do it. Matt, vampires are the best Ixalan tribe for standard. Is that true? Is that fact or is that fiction?
Well, I guess maybe by process of elimination.
What are your
dinosaurs?
options?
Dinosaurs is nothing.
Nope.
Merfolk, not quite there.
Nope. Pirates of some type?
No, and I guess there's a mono white vampires deck with a Catcher's Monument, so
Adonto Vanguard.
Yeah.
Fact.
Now, hold on. Time out, though.
All right.
Does it count if I get to look at just the Rampaging Ferocidon and say the amount of work that's done? Does the amount of work that card's done exceed the you know what? I'm going to go fiction. I'm going to go fiction.
You're right.
Dinosaurs are the best tribe for standard because that one rare is the Bannerman, and it's doing a great job. So dinosaurs are the best tribe for standard. You heard it here first.
All right, let's go to the next fact or fiction. Matt, fact or fiction? Smuggler's Cop. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Could be safely unbanned.
So, could it be safely unbanned?
Scary stuff.
I'm gonna say fiction. It's still you still see people playing with the Heart of Kirin, which is so much worse, and now it's even harder to crew. Could you safely unban? I mean, maybe, but that's not what the word safely means.
Yeah,
so I'm going to say fiction on this one.
All right. No, Copter, stay in the shed. You're not coming out to play. All right. It sounds like we're ready. Let's head on down for the game 3 of our other semifinal match. And this one could be quick. It is not time for you to go get a sandwich. Right now, you need to stay here with Matt and I and watch Michael Bernat versus Brandon Go. Because it's mono red mirror here, and sometimes these can go very quickly. All right, we gave the red players the green light here, and off we go.
I like how you said sometimes these can go quickly. I think there's only one way for it to go.
No, sometimes they go play a thing, kill it, play a thing, kill it, play a thing, kill it, and then somebody finally goes Hazaret. All right.
Okay, fair enough. Play a thing, kill it. All right. Fair enough.
Let's see if either player can stick a threat here. Well, there's Karizev. Both players still at 20.
I really like Karizev. I just think it's a cool card that they have that special custom monkey token.
Oh yeah, legendary monkey, buddy.
I just like this card. It's a cool card.
I do too. Also not insanely powerful, but good enough for standard. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good design.
It's good enough to draw in a braid.
That's right. So they've traded resources thus far. Uh-oh. No third land for Brandon. Not the end of the world, but not great.
No, when you see a Hazaret in Brandon's hand, and to be two mana away is not ideal. You also start stacking up cards in your hand if the game goes this way. So that's the bad news. The good news, I see an Aethersfield Harvester. That's one of the more powerful cards in the mirror. Maybe a third land pulls him right back into it.
Speaking of,
there it is.
Aethersfield Harvester for Michael Bernat. But, of course, he gets to be the first one down. Oh, but there's an Abrade from Brandon, so that's not going to get it done. And he finds a land. In fact, they're mirroring each other here in many ways.
Yeah, and that was a really, really big draw step.
Woof.
Because the difference between facing a 4-mana spell like a Chandra or Hazaret versus getting that Aethersfield Harvester out there, huge difference, big draw step.
All right, we have game here. Game on. Michael's got land number 4 right on time, though.
And we'll see if he has an Abrade of his own. It's not really a card you can wait to kill. It's just so powerful. 3/5 lifelink if you spend an energy.
Now, there's no reason why he'd need to main phase an Abrade anyway, right?
True. But if he taps out, then you know he doesn't have it.
Oh, he doesn't have it. So there's Kerry Zev. A fine turn for him, but not the answers that he needed here. And Brandon, if he's got something to add to the board, can start chipping in there with the Ethersphere Harvester. And those are big, important hits. It looks like it's going to be, yep, harsh mentor here.
Is this a Nambo of sorts?
No, it works. It's only your opponent.
Only your opponent, okay.
Yeah, he's good to go. Would love to still hit a land here, though.
So given that Michael has amassed 5 power of attackers, Brandon's got to give at least some thought to maybe blocking with the Aethersphere Harvester.
Oh, okay.
Since he only gains 3, I think most of the time you stare at the situation, you end up attacking because the opponent's tapped out now. Nothing can really go wrong. Hey, Brandon goes the other way with it.
All right, well, this is risky biz. You know, some of the cards we're thinking about here, a Braid. It's kind of the big one. There's another Sun-Scorched Desert, which is going to ping Brandon. But this is a big turn here.
Yeah, it's sort of public information that Michael doesn't have specifically a Braid because there's just no way you tap out there for 2/2.
Yeah, but I mean, draw steps happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Soulscar Mage. Now what?
That's relevant. And when you see it pre-combat, he's indicating he may have a burn spell, like a Lightning Strike or a Shock.
Okay.
Will then shrink the power of the Aethersphere Harvester, prevent the life link, possibly take it out. Okay, so both players in a staring contest here, which tends to favor the player who's a little bit light on lands.
That's right.
In this game, that's Brandon. He hasn't yet drawn his 4th land. You can see he's got some spells he's waiting to deploy, whereas Michael's holding a single card. And kind of, hey, draw my card, say go. You draw your card, say go. That does favor the player that's land light.
Yeah, Brandon right now just clinging to this Aethersphere Harvester, but it seems to be doing the job. He drew Kerry Zev, Skyship Raider for the turn. No land, but again, this deck can operate pretty well off of 3 lands. Though post-board, they do tend to board into some more expensive stuff, so he'll certainly want to hit that at some point, and he's just going to pass the turn back once again.
So we reached somewhat of a stalemate.
Yeah, they're staring at each other.
It's a little bit surprising to see a stalemate with an unkilled Aethersphere Harvester, right? That's such a powerful card in the matchup, but Michael is able to put enough out there to go a little bit wide where Brandon feels the need to try and block with it. A lot can go wrong. That could be Hazaret, that could be a Braid. I think we would have seen those by now, though, so instead we're just...
Wow, go for Michael Bernat. And that was a land off the top for Brandon, so he is in Hazaret mode now. We know how hard that card can be to defeat for these red decks. They just don't have many ways to interact. The Soulscar Mage, really one of the only ones. And that doesn't do it on its own either. Wow, Brandon's just passed a turn, so I think he's going to cast a Lightning Strike here. Hope to draw a land off the top of the library, and then he can actually crack in with Hazaret next turn.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that idea. You don't have a great Lightning Strike target. I mean, Kerry Zev's fine. Hazaret on the board means that it's the most mana efficient play. So that's an interesting decision point. Yeah, he ends up.
And you see why. He wants to protect his Hazaret.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he just thinks, well, if I kill this Soulscar Mage, what are the outs that Michael has to deal with this Hazaret?
Yeah, he does have a second Hazaret in his hand, but you're right.
It's true.
You're absolutely right. The way he's thinking about it is that Soulscar Mage is one of the ways to deal with Hazaret. I'll get that off the board first, then I'll play my Hazaret.
Yeah, he really did need to find a land here, though, if he was going to be able to attack with Hazaret. And I don't think he did. I think he might have found a Shock, something like that. So Hazaret's going to have to sit back. She is going to go ahead and crew up the Aethersphere Harvester now, though. Looks like Brandon's confidence is rising. And he's going to jam with the Aethersphere Harvester.
Yeah, Michael Bernat, I mean, what has he been drawing? He hasn't been playing lands. And this is a deck that likes to play its lands out if they're deserts, for example.
Right.
So he's got 5. Either been drawing basic mountain or something a little bit more narrow.
Wow, and he just takes this hit, too. Michael Bernat just paralyzed here from this Aethersphere Harvester, unable to get anything going. He's got to have something.
Yeah, sometimes it's redundant copies of Carry Zev. That sometimes happens.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
That was Pia Nalar off the top of the library. That was actually a really good draw if that's what it was, because I think his other card is Shock. And he can just shock something here and then actually start getting in. With Hazaret, you got to feel that pressure.
Oh, yeah. If this is Shock, it puts a ton of pressure on Michael.
What does he shock, if that's the case?
Yeah, you think you just send that Kenra to the graveyard,
Yeah.
attack with everything. If my opponent wants to spend his whole turn putting a 4/4 out, you know, bless his heart.
Yeah.
You know, try to win this from this board state. You try to win with a 4/4. Good luck.
Now, safe to assume that the Thopter is what crewed up the Aethersphere Harvester. So this is a mighty attack here from Brandon. He's going to leave back the Harsh Mentor. Oh, wow. And that's actually going to do it.
That's it. Michael doesn't see any road home.
No,
Just packs
he's
him
going
up.
to scoop him up, and he says, you got it. And that's Brandon Go, putting himself into the finals. And we get to see, after all the cool decks and all the neat stuff we got to see this weekend, Matt, we're back to square one. It's Temur versus Mono Red in the finals. So
Temur versus Mono Red. Nobody would have predicted it.
Yeah, it's just in a shocking twist here from Portland.
The deck is so uninteresting. He had to wear a crazy hat just to spice things up. But so some cool headwear at least in the finals.
That's right. So we've got it though. We've got it all lined up for you now. It is in fact going to be Shahar Shenhar playing Temur, just straight Temur energy. Finds himself in the finals against Brandon Go, who is on Ramunap Red. So that's our finals matchup. We're going to have that and more lined up for you right after this break.